Hey guys, welcome back. We are here with another episode of the OMG It's Derek podcast. Once again, joined by my beautifully red-bearded, handsome co-host, Mr. Codations. Hey, Mr. Codations, how you doing, my friend?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic, dude. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Cannot complain. It is night for us, as you just said.
Oh
We're
yeah.
recording this one pretty late. We just spent like the last 3 hours of supposed to, actually, I think it's only been about two, but the last 2 hours of supposed to be recording the podcast. And you know what happens when two friends that both do the same thing get together? We start bullshitting, and next thing we know,
Oh yeah.
we
Oh yeah.
still haven't
Then we're
recorded a
yep,
podcast.
exactly. Then we're 2 hours deep. Exactly. That's exactly what happens. We push these podcasts back to, every 2 weeks, we kind of, strategically place them now, and then we're doing a little bit more, fine tuning, if you will, for our episodes. And with that being said, we just, like you said, we both do full-time content creation. So our time is very limited that we get to spend together. So yeah, I mean, it just
Yeah, we
escapes
just
us
end up
sometimes.
chatting about whatever.
Yep. 2 hours
Yeah,
are gone.
so what we're talking about today, guys, just to kind of dive into it, is we've been thinking about what kind of topics we want to cover and stuff. And one of them that came to mind pretty quickly, and I know if you've been around on the podcast back when they were done live on Twitch, we have touched on this subject, but we've never done like a full podcast on this subject, which is the effects of social media on humans. It's been something I think both Codations and I have been interested in, probably because we work so closely in the field of social media, posting videos on YouTube, which is our kind of our main content creation, but also doing things like this podcast, as well as posting clips on TikTok, messing around with Twitter, other social medias, trying to
Yep.
grow our audience for our YouTube channels. And so it's always been something that's been on our thoughts. In our thoughts. And then I know me personally, when I think I first mentioned it on the channel, I had watched The Social Dilemma, and I think
Yeah.
Mr. Codations saw it. Did you say like a
just
week ago or
recently
something?
just recently yeah,
Right,
it's
right,
been it's
right.
been literally only a week. So I watched Social Dilemma, and then I also, I mean, now this was forever ago, I watched the what is it, the Social Network, which was the Facebook one,
Yeah, yeah,
talked
yep,
about how
yep.
Facebook came up.
Which,
But
by
on
the
a
way, just to interject
yep,
real
go
quick,
ahead.
if people don't know what we're talking about, The Social Dilemma is a documentary that came out on Netflix. That basically all it's talking about is the harms, the negative effects of social media, things like how they're tracking us and using our data against us, how they're forcing, which we'll dive more into this, but just to kind of give you,
Yep.
if you've never heard of this film yet, I would highly recommend checking it out personally. Mr. Codations,
Yeah,
you can tell if
I
he
would
would.
definitely
But it
second that.
basically, yep, and it basically just, again, is explaining how these companies are not only using your data and breaking privacy stuff and things like that, but also specifically designing these products to get you addicted to constantly being on the platforms. Uh,
Yep.
Excuse me. And then the other one that you mentioned is, I think, just more related to how Facebook was formed. That's another documentary,
Yeah. It's just
and the
basically
background
social.
of that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
go ahead and
exactly.
continue.
Exactly. No, both of those movies are just, I mean, or the documentary section, I mean, they're really, really good. I mean, The Social Network is based all around Facebook. There's nothing, too crazy about it. I mean, it's just basically the backstory and history of Facebook is all it is.
Mhm.
And then, the Social Dilemma, though, like you're saying, is more of a documentary. That's literally a lot of former like big wigs and a lot of the more popular social media sites, right now, like the Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, things like that. A lot of those big wigs, have former, I guess I should say, they're not currently working for the company, but nevertheless, they're basically shining it, light on social media in general, things that they're doing, tactics and all that stuff, and then why it is negative or could be negative, to humans and society in general. So I'm super
Right, right,
excited for
right.
today's podcast. I'm really, really pumped up just because, I'm interested to see some questions that you're going to shoot across, and talk back and forth. But one thing that the viewers might not know is I actually, even though I'm a graphic designer, I actually do marketing design, which is what, my job deems as, 12 different hats, not just graphic designer. So I actually spend a lot of my time on social media platforms. I mean, I spend a lot of time on Facebook running ads. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn running ads, some jobs, hiring sites running ads, and then obviously my channel, with my YouTube content creation. So, I mean, I'm very, very eager, to hear your opinions, Derek, because I mean, I definitely want to hear your side of things. I know you're probably to hear mine, and then just in general, I'm just to talk about some general stuff that people have said, and like in the Social Dilemma that they've brought up, and concerns and stuff. So, anyways, yeah, I'm ready to go in. I'm ready to dive deep when you are.
All right, let's do it then without further ado. And just a reminder, real quick, for the video portion of this, I'm not sure, Codations, if on your end you have to, like you were doing on the last one, switch between us so that the video file actually has whoever's talking showing.
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
know if you have to do that even with just two of us or how that works.
Yeah.
So
I
it
don't
is
know.
new for me
Yeah. I don't
because
know
I can't
how.
switch anything on my end.
I mean, if I do like this, does it switch it here? Do you see both? Or on your end or no?
I don't. No, I don't. But
Okay. Yeah. See. Yeah.
so
So
hopefully we'll.
So in the right hand side of Zoom, right? Like when you put your
Yeah.
mouse over in the very top right corner, do you have a view button?
Yeah, and I just
If
have
you
it set
click
to
that,
speaker
yeah, change it to gallery.
to gallery. So we're just side by side then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know another way for it to do it simultaneously. You know, to automatically
Maybe
swap.
speaker does it simultaneously. How was
Well,
it swapping last time? Because it was swapping between the.
It
different
was
people.
swapping on my end, but it wasn't swapping on like you guys. But I wasn't seeing me. I was only seeing you and seeing Jason. I wasn't seeing seeing me. My name never my face never popped up for me. Anyways.
Okay. Okay. We'll try the gallery then. We'll try the gallery. All right.
The wife was totally just looking at me. She's like, can you give me a kiss? And I'm like, no, babe, I can't give you a kiss. I'm on a podcast. Anyways.
You could have gave the wife a kiss. She probably deserves it.
Well, she's still standing right here giving me this eyeball look. So
give her a kiss for the people.
Apparently I can give you a kiss here on screen. No, I can't come over there. I'm glued to my chair. Oh, she won't do it. She won't do it.
Damn.
Oh, that's
Even
too
mine
funny.
comes over while I'm
I know.
one, dude. So but anyway, so let's go ahead then and dive into the topic then if we're good,
okay.
Mr. Codacious.
Yeah, no, I'm completely fine. Let's go.
All right, brother. So yeah, I mean, the first things first, I think first over anything, you know, when we first started discussing doing this topic, you know, I will say my first reaction is personally, I don't view social media as all bad. So on my end, you know, if I'm just being completely honest, knowing that we were going to have a discussion around this, you know, I'm not exactly sure how to start off this conversation. Do you think it's wise to just maybe list kind of, you know, here's how I thought it would be interesting to kind of, again, because the reason this topic came up again is because you watched The Social Dilemma.
Right.
So could you maybe start with what kind of stood out to you? Now, and it's kind of the negative. This is obviously going to be the negative sides of social media. But then at the end, I would like to talk about some of the positives of social media to kind of even it out. It's just the type of person I am, because while I do think there's a lot of problems, I think social media also gets a bad rap because of human behavior, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I think humans like to blame everything besides themselves. Nobody likes to take personal responsibility.
Right.
And not that they aren't doing shady things and things that we can't talk about, but I would like to touch on that. But I thought maybe we can start with kind of all the negative of it, but just so people know, this isn't going to be like at least on my side, like a rip and the whole episode ripping on social media. I would like to get into that facet of how much of it is as actually the negative of social media versus how people choose to use social media. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So now here's one thing that I'm going to tell you right now, and this might completely derail everything you just said.
Let's fucking go.
I'm the complete opposite. So I'm the complete opposite with not to you. I'm saying I'm the complete opposite of what you just mentioned as far as the negatives. I'm 100% pro. I mean, my views are completely different, like compared to me and my wife. Like me and my wife watched The Social Dilemma together. You know, she was very much on board with all the negative things, you know, with social media, you know, this, you know, social media can just go away tomorrow. You mean, aspect, you know what I mean? And, nothing would, she wouldn't be affected. She wouldn't care, within me. I actually spend a lot of time on social media, you know what I mean? And I spend, and by a lot of time, I mean, like even like personal time on social media. And so, yeah, I mean, I look at things a little bit differently. So I'm fine with for whatever. I mean, I'm fine if we want to dive into some of the negatives or some of the.
Well, let me ask this. What was the key takeaways from watching The Social Dilemma? What was kind of the big things that really got you thinking?
Well, so here's the thing. So I would just give you the full scoop, right? We're on a podcast. We've got time. So here's the thing. So I sat down, me and the wife were just messing around looking on Netflix. You know, we had a little bit of time on it on last weekend evening, and we stumbled across Social Dilemma. She had heard some things from, you know, coworkers or people that she knew, you know, that had watched it and talked good things about it. So we just suggested it. So we started watching the Social Dilemma. My first response was in the first, I'm going to say 20 minutes of the documentary. My first response was very defensive, right? So like I was very defensive in terms of seeing these CEOs, seeing these, you know, big wigs, you know, all these former, you know, big head honchos that were behind these platforms at one point, you know, just being salty, right? Like that was my brain. My brain instantly went to, oh, you know, they don't work for this company anymore. You know, they're probably losing out on money, you know, or, you know, they had a spat with, you know, somebody there, you know, so they're just, you know, they're trying to ride this train. I mean, you know, to continue negativity, you know, negativity towards this, you know, social dilemma, right? Exactly what the title is, you know. And then that was my first thought. And then as I continue to watch, right, in the movie, you know, or in the documentary, they kind of manifest that family, right? So you kind of see that family that trails along, you know, throughout the film. And then as I was watching more of that, it really did stand out to me, you know, how the new generation coming up. I'm not going to specific, you know, put a letter on it because I might be, you know, in part of that, but I don't want to put myself in there. But you know, the new generation, you know, coming up, you know, I think sure, you know, sure that social media is allowing, or they're allowing social media to directly affect their ability to socialize outside of it. Do you mean, you know what I mean? Like as far as, you know, normal, you know, like, you know, human, you know, in person socializing, you know what I mean? And I think it does sometimes, you know, or they're allowing it to get in the way, you know, parents and stuff are allowing it to get in the way of, you know, that family time. You mean, you know, eating at the dinner table, you know, nobody's talking, everybody's phone, you know, faces in the phones, you know, that kind of stuff, right? Like, you know, that part I would definitely be on board for, you know, and I started to see that aspect through that film. um, but my takeaway from the entire thing was I look at social media in a synopsis. I look at social media as a tool, right? And I look at it as that tool can be utilized by a human for good or evil, right? Or good or bad, right? And I think that the just because we have social media, and it's a tool, I don't think that it's a negative thing or that we should just wipe out all social media. You mean, you know, like, you know, go back to Ivy social media. I think personally, it's sure there's some bad eggs, you mean, who are utilizing this platform, you know, to reach a larger audience, whether that is to do harm, whether that is to troll, whether it is to bully, you know, whatever, you know, all the negative things, you know, behind social media, you know, and again, I haven't even dove into like, you know, privacy stuff. You mean, you know, I mean, like in data
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything,
Mhm.
you know, but it's for me personally, I don't I don't really know if I care enough, honestly, of my data being used. Because again, I'm really oddly in that marketing realm. You know what I mean? Where I really am looking forward to a world where everything is catered to me without me having to do the work. Does that make sense? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and that only comes from user data. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
either manual entry or user data. Do you know what I mean? And I'm on that line of I'm in tech. I love tech. I mean, you know, I'm in marketing. I love marketing. I'm in that realm where it's like, you know, if the data being collected is not, you know, is being utilized in a fashion to deliver the most relevant items or products or topics or things to that end user, I don't see a problem with utilizing that data. You know what I mean? That's me, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, again, it sounds to me like, because one of the questions I had like on my list was that I
Okay.
was going to ask, you know, was, you know, do the positive effects of social media outweigh the negative? And that's kind of what it sounded like in a nutshell. What you're saying
Okay.
is you do acknowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just
No, you're
asking, I
fine.
guess. But it sounds like you're saying there are some negative things with social media. There was some things that I, you know, once I actually watched the whole movie through the Social Dilemma, I was like, yeah, these are definitely negatives. I can see how some of these, but overall, the positives that this technology allows far outweigh, you know, the negatives. I guess to play devil's advocate, since you know you said you're going to try to derail this on me, I'm going to try to derail it back. So I'm going to play devil's advocate on the I'm going to stick on the negative side.
Right.
let you maybe do more of the positive side, since that's kind of the way you're leaning. Even though, just so people know, I actually probably fall on the more. I think there's more positive than negative as well. But to play devil's advocate, uh, but do you not think that there's a way that we can do social media and fix some of these negatives? I don't understand this thought that people have on both sides of it's like you got to take all this like yeah, there's these negatives, but there's these positives. So it's like that cancels out these negatives. Can't we have the positives and get rid of some of the negatives? I mean,
Um,
and
I
I
think
think
so.
that's where for me, like the social dilemma got interesting was in like, more of the like, talking about like, kids wanting to be on it 24/7 because, they're addicted to the likes, the comments, we'll call it engagement. They're
Okay.
addicted to this engagement that they spend all their time on it. Are there not ways we can solve that problem to still get the benefits of social media without all of those negative effects?
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, in a short answer, I definitely think that you can do that. I don't agree with the, it is what it is and you can't change it or anything without getting rid of it completely. I definitely think that some of the negative effects, from like users' data, users' privacy. I mean, selling the information, using that information for ad revenue. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there's ways to um manipulate the social media platforms to still offer a positive benefit, but then try to cut down and eliminate on some of the negatives. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that there is. I don't really necessarily have all of the answers as far as what those, what they could do or what I see that could be done. I mean, if we're going more towards harm or bullying, you mean, or cyberbullying, and trolling, all the, the really, really intense stuff. Obviously not, a guy saying, that, this person looks ugly. Like, I mean, more in serious stuff. I think on that realm, yeah, I mean, I think there could be a lot more moderation. I mean, I think there could be a lot more things, added in, like, sensory, I mean, stuff, or at least, more checks and balances. But again, I think, honestly, I think the reason why people go from one extreme, to having social media, leaving it at what it is, or the only other option is cutting social media out, I think is because the in between hasn't been announced or seems like it's impossible. You know what I mean? So like, if to add something like that to the platform, could potentially, be really, really tough. I mean, it could take a lot more of extra work. Maybe it takes a lot more manpower to run, so it's never been mentioned, from the actual, companies, or, maybe the other end of it, I know there's a lot of freedom thinkers out there, that are really big on um you know rights. I mean, and freedom of speech. I mean, and I should be able to post and say whatever I want to say, and if that is, against somebody else, or offending somebody else. I mean, there's, you also have that side too, where they think that it should just be an open, an open source thing. You make an account on the profile or whatever, you make an account, and then you should be able to say whatever you want to say online because that's your constitutional right, which to an extent I understand, but then at the same time it's a business. You know what I mean? And that business should have a right to do whatever they want. If they don't, if you don't want to abide by the rules, then they should be able to kick you off that platform, So I don't know. I mean, or censor you, I mean, I don't, I'm kind of in the air with it. I mean, I think my niche, I specifically, or the way that my brain works when it comes to manifesting it, I personally don't think that we're going to see a change. I mean, I think we might see a change in user data usage. And I mean, I've done some research, and there's already companies, foreign companies, to the US. If you're watching this from, or if you're listening to this from somewhere other country, then it may not be foreign for you. But there's already some, other countries, that they're already coming out with ways to interpret user data without interpreting user data that we're used to. Do you know what I mean? So they're basically looking at other aspects that aren't against, you know what I mean? Like, some of this, like user policy stuff, or at least not stated right now, and then they're still able to find out some information to use that information to present that to advertisers, So instead of like, getting somebody's, everything about them, like their, all of their information that they can collect on them, where they live, their location, everything that they've looked at, their entire search history, instead of getting all that information, they might only be picking 2 items out of that thing or 3 items out of that thing, you know what I mean? But it still gives them something to go off of, you know what I mean? To then still somewhat present relevant items to them. And it still it allows them to get through that, that barrier, So, I mean, I definitely think that there are going to be ways that will manifest. I just don't know. I think people right now are so, one or the other. I think it's, black and white for a lot of people. It's like, oh, they collect all my stuff and they sell all my information. Yeah, screw this place. You know what I mean? And then they try to, seek other avenues that claim that they don't do that, So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the argument on that side, the people kind of against data harvesting and collecting, from my understanding, it's more always been that there should be abilities to opt out of it all if you want. And
Yep.
and while sites have like Facebook and stuff started adding abilities for you to opt out of stuff, it's almost, I think the argument becomes like it should be that you have to opt in for this stuff because most people aren't going to just go in and opt out anyways because most people don't even know it fucking exists probably.
Right. Right.
So and I get what you said earlier, trying because we're kind of, we're moving through a lot of topics really fast,
Yeah. Yeah.
rushing
Nope.
really
That's
fast.
fine.
But to go back to kind of what you were saying at the very beginning, where you were talking about, you don't typically mind, that you're getting served exactly what it may be that you need or want without you even realizing that you need or want that product or service. But
Right.
because of that algorithm, the data collection being so good that your feed is being curated to precisely what you want. And I would agree that that's a cool thing in essence, but at the end of the day, I tend to be of the belief that you probably would be no happier obtaining those things than and in fact I would maybe even argue that it only feeds into the desire of wanting more and more. Whereas if you were never advertised those products to begin with and didn't know you were, so then you're making the assumption that you have no idea they exist anyways.
Right.
So there's never any feeling of missing out because you don't have them because you never knew they existed in the first place. So I guess I don't buy entirely into that. Like, oh, it's better because everything's curated towards me. Just because it's like it doesn't have to be there. There's millenniums of people that it wasn't like that, and people still bought what they wanted and what they needed. And let me rephrase that: they didn't just buy what they needed, but they also bought what they wanted when they saw it in the store or something. But nowadays I think people have an even harder time because there's so much, like I know for example, like in my feeds alone, there's so much cool shit that pops up that I wish I had money to buy it all.
Right.
And so I wonder how much it actually is a benefit in the psyche versus a negative due to the fact that there's now so much more crap that is tailored to like be stuff that you definitely want in your life, and you just can't get it all.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you're completely right. I mean there does, and what you're kind of tiptoeing around too is, there does come a limit or a time where, in that theory, or whatever it was that I had said, at the beginning, in that same realm of things, there does come a time where, if you're being constantly served things that you or the algorithm feels, do you mean, that are the most relevant to you, then in theory, you would imagine that there would be a time where, is the algorithm then what you feel, you need, or is it really what you feel you need? You know what I'm saying? Or what you really, what you feel you want. You see what I'm saying? Like the lines would get blurred, you know what I mean? Like to think, and I think that's where a lot of people, at least a lot of stuff like in the Social Dilemma, are getting into, that eventually, they're looking at it as this algorithm is, in a sense, controlling your interest. Or controlling your, what you feel is relevant. On the platform or an ad or whatever, even though, like you said, it might not be, because your life might not really have been affected with or without that thing. But because it knows all this information about you, it's only delivering these items to you specifically to get you attracted to this one thing. You know what I'm saying? And I guess it's where, I get that. I would understand that. I would accept that as could potentially be a negative side. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if personally, just to clarify, I don't know that I would use the word control. I think the products would actually be products you would want to control, or not want to control, that you would actually want and need. I just think at some point the algorithm gets so good at knowing all about you, imagine this: you're getting 100 ads a day, and every single one of them is something that you want. Can you afford to buy
Okay.
100 things a day off of Facebook?
No, obviously
So
not.
so then you start getting the feeling of missing out. You don't have all these great things that you're seeing that are perfect for you. You know
Which
what I'm
makes
saying?
sense.
Like it. So whereas versus before all that, I just don't think it was as much of an issue. I mean, if you saw something in a store, you might be like, yeah, I want that. But it wasn't like you were going to a store and seeing 100 things a day that were specific. It wasn't, it would be like you walk into Walmart and literally the entire store is filled with only things that exactly you, Codations, would want to have.
Right.
Everything in this, every way you look, every single thing in that store is something that you're like, oh my God, I would love to have that. Every single item. But you can only leave with like 5 items.
Right.
Like, fuck, that's going to be a hard choice for the day. That's going to be a goddamn horrible Walmart trip. You're going to leave there doing nothing but thinking, like, oh, fuck, should I have got this instead of this or that instead of that? Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I can understand the fear from the other side. Like, once this becomes so, and it kind of goes into what we were talking about, like with the addiction problems, because it's not just products for sale, it's Facebook, and I'm just using Facebook as an example because that was the main one they used in the Social Dilemma, if I remember
Right.
correctly.
Yep. Yep. It
Um,
is.
but it's all social media sites, and all of them with an algorithm that is designed to do one thing: keep you using that platform. So
Right.
a newer site, for example, is TikTok. So I'll use TikTok just so we aren't throwing only shade at Facebook like Social Dilemma did. So when TikTok starts, all the videos you get served, not stuff for sale, but just the videos that you're getting served in your algorithm.
Right.
Everybody has their own algorithm. So we all log into the same TikTok, but everybody's feed is different from everybody else's. We all have our own algorithm based off of mining that same data. What videos is Codations liking? Which videos is he swiping on? Which ones is he sitting there and watching all the way through? And pretty soon, what starts to happen is every single video on your feed in that algorithm, and again, they're not perfect yet. So, it's
Right.
not, but I'm saying when we get to that point, every single video is that, oh my God, I have to watch this video feeling. Then you see where the addiction problem starts coming in. Like,
Right.
it's hard to get away when every single fucking video is 100% tailored to be the best video for you in the world.
Right. No, I completely get that. And yeah, and you're 100% right. I mean, that would be, yeah, that would be really overwhelming. You know what I mean? It'd be very, yeah, it'd be very consuming. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
and
And
very
then,
addicting. And
right.
and I and like, as we're saying it, like at the beginning, and again, just to clarify again, because I don't want you to think even, that I'm playing
Yeah, I
devil's
know.
advocate here, because I'm very much like you most days, where I'm like, I think the positive outweighs the negative. But I say that as being a person, and maybe this is why you say it, I don't know, you can try, but I say that as a person that's, for the most part, able to control their social media usage, and so far have not fallen victim to that algorithm problem. So far, I've not had an issue. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I've had issues, like I can get lost in TikTok, I know myself, for a half an hour, an hour, and like I can open it for a second, think I'm going to be on for 5 minutes, look up, and an hour's passed.
Right.
Because of that, though, I have enough self-discipline that I have limits in place, physical limits, timers and stuff set on my phone that stop me from using these apps for too long. Whereas I think most people don't, and maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, at least from the data, most people don't have that ability. So I'd be curious, like, is the reason you say that you think the positives outweigh the negatives, um, just because of the actual positive benefits of social media, or is it because you found a way to curb the negative effects for you, or is it, because maybe the algorithms just currently don't affect you? You know what I'm trying to ask there?
Yeah. And I think, I think it's, I mean, it's a tough one because it's hard because I don't know, man. I feel like I'm a little bit different. I mean, because I feel I feel the thing that you just said, right? Like I completely understand on the aspect of God, why did my brain just go blank? Hold on a second here. I got to think for 2 seconds. You
No
worded it
worries, no
really
worries.
well. You really worded it really well, and I had something to come back, and I completely forgot here. What did you? Let me think here.
Yeah. So the way I was
Um,
just saying it was, I have systems in place to help me deal with the
Oh, that's what
algorithms.
it was. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So for me, so I don't have systems in play, but here's what I will tell you. Um, when it comes to social media, I look at YouTube as a social media, right? I mean, technically, I think it's a
Sure. I
social
would.
media in the sense
Sure.
of it's a social platform through video, obviously, but it's a social platform that is utilizing your attention. I mean, from other things, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
technically, could be considered a social media.
Sure.
And
Sure.
if YouTube is in that realm, then I would personally say that I think that that would be the only crutch for me. And what I mean by that is because, and again, this might just not even be part of this conversation because maybe I'm mixing my content creation, my passion and hobby. I mean, in with a social media thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm mixing the two, but but I spend a lot of time on YouTube, like, looking at mobile games. I mean, researching mobile games, looking at new mobile games, looking at content creators, doing all of this stuff, and there has been times where that does become consuming. You mean, where, instead of me sitting, let's say, laying in bed with my wife, we both go to bed, early or whatever one night, and we're laying there, and instead of us talking and spending quality time together, maybe we haven't seen each other all day, my nose is deep in my my YouTube stuff. I got headphones on. I'm sitting there, plummeting through YouTube video after YouTube after YouTube video, listening to whatever, doing whatever. Now again, that could be counted maybe as research. Maybe it could be counted as me doing work. I mean, I don't know for my content creation because I use all that information to my advantage for my channel. But neither here nor there. There's been times like that, that would be what consumes me. However, when it comes to actual social media, I'm like you in the sense where, I mean, I don't actually have physical timers and physical things. I'm not really into it. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, me. I mean, I've got a Twitter page. I mean, I post like once a month on Twitter. You know what I mean? And most of the time it's just for formality. You know what I mean? I'm not even using it to be utilizing it for what it is, the same thing for like my Facebook and stuff. I'm literally on Facebook. If I had to say, I open Facebook maybe once every 2 days. I mean, there's things that people share with me and I never see it. I mean, and then finally I, open up my Facebook, I see it and I respond to it. And then a person's like, I sent this to you like 3 days ago. I mean, I'm just not, I'm not really big like my life outside of my work. I work in social media every day. My life outside of work, I'm not really enveloped in social media. Now, there's one thing to add here. It's not a popular social media, but does Discord count as a social media?
No, I don't. Social media, typically you're dealing with, I mean, the common, at least for me, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but the definition that seems to be most is you're dealing with some type of an algorithm. That I think is the
Okay.
is more the danger.
And
Discord, you're
user
not
and
dealing
user,
with an algorithm.
yeah, and there's no
Uh,
user collection of data either. So with Discord,
I'm sure there is some. I mean, almost
no, no,
every
no,
company
no. I'm talking
nowadays
about,
collects the
yeah,
user data.
yeah. No, I'm talking about. I'm not. That might happen. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like user data, as in like using that to present ads and stuff to you. I'm saying like that doesn't exist on Discord.
Correct. I don't think so. I don't actually know 100%. I've never noticed ads really on Discord, so
I've
I'm
never
assuming
seen
no.
an ad in Discord. Yeah, and
But
I'm in
I don't
like.
want to say definitive because I don't know.
I guess that makes
But
sense.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So yeah, I wouldn't classify that really as social media. Maybe it is, but I think again, I guess to clarify for the podcast, we are discussing social media specifically more with algorithms. But so kind of going back to what you're saying there though, um, so now you say that, but my question then I would pose to you is, so what's the difference between someone like yourself that spends all day on YouTube to the point where it can consume you, that you're sitting next to your wife, or not sitting, but laying next to your wife in bed, as you use an example,
Yep.
versus someone that spends all day on TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That's what I'm saying. That I don't think there is a difference in that. That's why I was saying, like, like I think that there is that level of addiction, or like that you can let it consume. You mean a specific
So you're
time or
right,
your
right.
life or
So
whatever.
So your argument is not that you so your argument wasn't that you don't have things in place. Your argument was you're addicted to social media. It's just
Well,
YouTube
yeah.
for you.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you can look at it that way. Again, though, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's not like I'm looking at YouTube, at channels that I like, for, to get whatever I get out of them. And like, I'm not doing it as it's hard to explain. People
I
go on
get
social
I
media,
get what
right?
you're
And they're using
saying.
you're using social media, right? Like, because
Mhm.
say for TikTok, right?
Yep.
You like these videos, you're following these videos, whether they're funny, whether they're creative, whether they're, whatever, you're scrolling through and you're looking at that to fill a time gap or void or, whatever. You get some sort of pleasure from looking at it. Now, for me, I look at it, my YouTube stuff, I look at it more on the level of, like I said, research, or more like I look in the level of like, like work. I'm pretty much, like I said, I'm not on YouTube watching other people's content that I can't use that information to benefit me in my content creation. Does that make sense? So I'm not really
It
sure.
makes sense. So my question then would be, so if somebody's creating content on TikTok, they're not addicted to social media. So if the act of creating makes you not addicted to it. And
I
again,
don't know.
I'm not like
I mean,
just trying to
I mean,
come
I know.
at you, because
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. No,
I'm
I
just playing
know.
devil's advocate here, because the truth is I'm very similar. I don't really consume, like there's we've had this talk before. There's a couple creators I watch here or there, like Peter McKinnon,
Right.
Casey Neistat when he used to post, Maddie Hapoya, but I don't even watch them regularly. I really don't watch any other people's content that much. Most of what I do watch is other creators that are doing similar stuff to me, that I'm trying to see, are they doing
Competitors
something
content
that, but nonetheless, I'm still spending a lot of time on that site.
on site,
And I
right?
would
Which
maybe even say, even as a creator, I might be creating instead of consuming, but is that really a difference when it comes to addiction?
I
I
guess
guess
not, because I mean you're still technically you're still being consumed by
they're
the
still
social
getting you to
platform.
stay on their
Right,
platform.
right. The
Through
algorithm's
post.
still working. The algorithm's still collecting your data. It's still holding your attention. Yeah, I get it. And that makes sense. I mean, so yes, then I guess in that case, yeah. I mean, I guess to answer your question, then I guess it would be flipping roles a little bit by saying that, because I mean, I guess that's the one thing, that, like I said, that that I can truly stay, or say that, that I actually have dealt with, you know what I mean? But as far as, this, crazy world of, these more severe cases, where, people can't live without this, they can't live without ever checking Facebook, or can't live, stuff like that. You know what I mean? I don't really experience that on any other platform. You know what I mean? And
Just
so,
yeah. And just to push back a little more.
yeah, yeah, I'm listening.
But you say that, but both of us had conversations about our own numbers on YouTube, on
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's what
platform.
I just said. Yeah. That's
Or
why I said that
okay,
last
I
phrase.
didn't.
That's why I said
Okay,
that
okay.
last phrase. I said on something like, Facebook or some, or, or on like Facebook or whatever. I was saying specifically YouTube is my crutch. I mean, I'm saying, like YouTube is that part for me. You know what I mean? I think I've consumed enough YouTube, to the point now where, yeah, I mean, it is an addiction. It's, yeah, I spend a ton of time. I mean, going through, looking at stuff.
Okay, so if we just assume that we are also addicted to social media like most people,
Yep.
I've set up things in place for other social media sites so that I don't get addicted to them, but I don't have timers set for YouTube, and I am on that a lot, whether it's uploading videos, responding to comments, or occasionally watching other people's comments. I spend a shit ton of my time on YouTube, as do you. So then my
Yep.
question is, so what do you think, to kind of flip it to the positive? So what do you think are all of the positive benefits that are outweighing? And I know this is a tough question, and I don't mean for it to be so personal or whatever, but I
Right.
guess I'm sitting here as we're talking. I'm gonna be like, I'm starting to question some of my stuff right now as we're because my thought is this: like we were just talking about, again, this was before the podcast. We were telling people, we were just chatting, and I was talking about giving up a lot of family time to do what I do on social media,
Right.
and just hearing you say, like, laying in bed next to your wife, like, and then but at the beginning of this podcast we're both like, oh yeah, but we think the positives outweigh the negatives. So we're saying that the positives of social media outweigh the negatives, which, let's be specific what we're saying the negatives are: spending less time with our loved ones,
Yeah, but here's the thing.
having less real conversations with your wife, or having real
Correct.
less conversations
Correct.
with
Now here's
my wife.
Yep. Now here's the difference. So here's where I still think that the positive outweigh the negatives, and I'll tell you the reason why. Um, Without diving too deep into a bunch of positives right now, one thing I want to say is the reason why I feel like humans in general have fallen into this trap behind social media, like me and you. Um, I don't necessarily blame social media. I don't think social media is technically the issue with me being addicted to YouTube as much as more as it is on me personally as an individual. You know what I mean? I don't think that me being sucked into YouTube and watching YouTube videos and wanting to look at my numbers and manage my numbers, I don't think that the issue is the fact that I have the ability to do it. You know what I mean? You mean, I think it's the issue of me. You mean meaning like I think that as humans, we should be able to manage the tools that we are given. You mean the tools don't necessarily control our actions? Does that make sense? So I guess what I'm trying to state is I think that, sure, social media can be super addicting. It can consume multiple things. People have different levels of addiction. You can allow it to then affect your life, but I don't think that social media is that blame. Does that make sense? Like, in the
It
base.
does, and I would actually typically agree with that statement. It's a statement that's used a lot, even out. Let's take it outside of social media. It's the argument for the right to the Second Amendment, the right to bear
Right.
arms.
Yep.
A lot of people say the gun's a tool; it's not the problem, and I would agree with that typically. And just being like, I support the Second Amendment. I own guns myself.
Right. Right.
People might get pissed about that, but that's the truth. I know how
Yeah.
you internet vultures can be, but the truth is I own guns. Like,
Yeah, but I'm
I'm
the same way.
them.
Yep.
But I think there is something a little bit different with an algorithm, because these are operating. Let me maybe put it another way. And again, if any of this ever gets like too personal, you just got to say something.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm listening.
But I work out. I'm still a little overweight. You're a touch overweight.
Yep.
We're not going to call ourselves fat. We got dad bods. I
Oh,
bet
hell
you'd
yeah.
love to be like super in shape and have big, I'm not saying you want to be jacked and ripped, but I'm saying,
Right.
I'm sure you'd like to be really in shape. Why aren't you? Like there's things that are really hard for humans to do. And on a very cycle, like one of the biggest arguments I heard for why most people don't stay in super good shape is because we weren't actually biologically designed to be in that great of shape. Everybody thinks like hunter gatherers, they were all super in shape, six packs, big bulging Arnold Schwarzenegger guys, but that's not the truth. The truth is, back then it was really hard to get food calories and stuff. So yes, they had to exert themselves at time to catch food and stuff, but overall they lived pretty lax in between those times. They didn't actively try to burn a ton of calories. They couldn't go drink a fucking pop and refill the calories that they just burned at the gym in an hour and a half of working out.
Right.
So with that, so the problem is with algorithms, I think specifically, and why they might be a little different. I'm not saying they are. I'm just, again, playing devil's advocate. Why I think they might be a little different is that they kind of target some of those underlying, we'll call it lizard brain things about us that almost we can't control. Like they're almost like
right. The algorithm is smart enough. The algorithm is smart enough to manipulate. Right. Right.
Like it's not really like most males masturbate.
Right.
Throughout their life, because it's a very hard thing for them not to do because of that sex drive they have that's built in by nature. So when you have something like an algorithm that can what's the word, not pry, that can
deliver that or present
that can trigger those responses, right, or whatever.
Yep.
It becomes a lot more difficult than, say, a tool like a gun that can't actually
trigger any responses.
They can't whisper in your ear the whole time you're holding the gun, like, this motherfucker called your mama fat, you should tap his ass right now. Like, you're pissed off, dude. Like, we're both like, okay, if a gun started like trying to edge you on to kill somebody,
then that makes sense.
Like, then we'd start saying, okay, maybe the tool's not so good.
Right.
With an algorithm, it's literally this thing built again around the
Right. It's
entire
built. It's
algorithm built
built.
around
Right.
keeping you addicted to the algorithm,
Whatever it is. Right.
and
Right.
whatever the
Which I mean,
platform may be.
in that premise, I mean, yeah, I mean that's I mean you're true. I mean you're right. You're right in the aspect because yes, like I said before already in this podcast episode, it's there is that fine line, that level where the algorithm, like you said, I mean, is can get to the point where it's constantly triggering those responses, and they're strategically doing it to a point, in my opinion, where a user would potentially not be able to control it.
And let
I
me
mean,
just to give another. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was gonna say, and that's, I mean, that's where, yeah, I mean, like I said, that's where I'm kind of, I'm conflicted in the sense where, I understand that aspect, you mean, where it can trigger responses, you mean, but I still think that it's still that fine line, you mean, where it does come down to the individual, you know what I mean? Because going back to your statement of, working out thing, you're 100% right. I am a little overweight. I would absolutely love to just tone up. You mean, to just trim
Mhm.
off some of the body fat, not to be super muscular, not to spend all my weight, my time in the gym, but I definitely would. The difference is I have zero ambition to do so. You know what I mean? I don't find working out fun. You mean, I've tried it a few times. Do you know what I mean? Me and the wife been on workout binges for like 2 or 3 weeks. Do you know what I mean? I get in the
Mhm.
groove of working out. I absolutely hate it. I don't, none of it attracts me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't find it fun. You mean, like maybe I need a buddy. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need a person, to talk with and socialize with. I'm a social butterfly. I don't like to go to the gym and put headphones on and not talk to anybody. It's just for me. I don't want to do it. It's not that I'm making up excuses of why I can't. I just don't want to do it. You know, and it's even though I do want that little bit, I don't, that I don't want to do it outweighs that little bit of yeah, it'd be nice to be a little bit toned. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I get. Go ahead. I'll let you go
No,
ahead.
no, yeah, and I was just gonna say, I mean, and I get that, and working out is probably not even the best analogy to use with an algorithm because again, I almost think there's something about an algorithm that we've not seen with any other tool. Again,
Right.
not most tools or most things, you know, even it ain't like a large burrito's talking to you about how it's, this burrito's like maybe your brain's like this burrito's so good I don't give a fuck about working out. I just want to eat burritos. But the tool is not actually telling you that stuff like an
Right.
algorithm kind of is in a sense almost. And again, like another analogy just came to mind that I just thought might fit with it is like I'm gonna use myself. So like, me and my wife, we've been married now, my wife, if she wants to be an asshole, she could totally be an asshole. She knows exactly what buttons to push on me. And I'm sure your wife, probably does
Yep.
too. You probably
Yep.
know things you can do to your wife that will set her off. And you might avoid those if you love her and you don't want to set her off. But you still
Right.
know those things that it's almost like there's things that if my wife does it, even though I know she might be doing it, I'm still gonna get like I can't control myself. Like it's those deep rooted maybe beliefs or those deep rooted whatever. and
Right.
and again, so in a lot of sense, I mean, again, maybe not in today, but in another 50 years, I would argue an algorithm will probably know you better than your own wife or your own spouse. It'll
Oh
know
well.
all the
Oh, it
hidden
definitely.
shit you looked
Yeah.
up, all the
Oh yeah.
hidden stuff you're like, I wonder if anybody else ever has this thought. Type it into Google. Algorithm knows about it.
Right, which it would, like, I don't have any doubt that it wouldn't. I mean, I think, obviously as geez Louise, technology advances, you mean, obviously, like, it's only gonna get better. I mean, it's only gonna learn, more and more and more and more and more information, and the more information that's put into an algorithm, the more better that algorithm becomes. You mean, at whatever it's doing for the algorithm.
Right.
So, I mean, I definitely don't disagree with that. But at the same time, I'm kind of in that realm of one, are we still, as humanity and society, are we still, able to save this from where it's going? You mean, or B, is it just more of a, you know, is it really that big of a deal? You know what I mean? Like meaning like because these things are triggering these emotional responses or triggering these responses, you know, because it's going to strategically work for me. You mean at the end of it, what do I have to lose? I'm broke on the side of the street because I couldn't resist myself or my urge to buy all my stuff and blow all my money. You mean, or, you know, or is it more or less,
I
you
think it's
know,
more than that. I think what's at risk is your happiness.
okay,
Like I was talking about
elaborate.
earlier, when you have, I think humans think they want it all. Let me see how to word this correctly here. I think
Yep.
your happiness becomes at stake, and I'll say why. Because when it's pegged to, the problem is, I think, like, because well, let me start with this. You said, how do we fix it, maybe, or then you said, or is it even an issue? So the how do we fix it? I think the big problem lies in is, what is the algorithm's motive?
Okay.
What do we have the motive set up for the algorithm? In current algorithms, the motive is what we say before. I think there's two things really. Number one is time that you're dealing with the algorithm. We'll say time that you're dealing with the algorithm, because this isn't platform specific. So
Right.
the algorithm's job is to keep you engaged with that algorithm. If
Right.
that's a Facebook news feed, that's its job. Why is it that job? So it can, why does it want to keep you engaged 24/7? What is the purpose of if the Facebook algorithm could do it, it would want you to be on Facebook 24/7. Never
Right.
sleep, never nothing, always on it. Why? I posed the
Well,
question to you.
oh, you're asking me,
Yeah, yeah. Why
to
is the
make,
algorithm set up that way?
to make money
By how?
by keeping you on the platform, using the platform,
But
right?
how does that make them money? How do the platforms make money?
Because they have ads.
Exactly. So right now, and that's kind of leads us back to that beginning of all the ads. Great. So right now, the algorithm's key to keep you on the platform for as long as possible, so they can serve you as many ads as possible to make as much money as possible. What if the algorithm's not based on that? What if the algorithm is changed so that it provides you with the best experience for keeping in touch with like-minded people? And that's what the algorithm's trying to solve. Then I think it eliminates a lot of the negatives. And the problem is with it pegged. So then you say, okay, so what's at stake? And I say happiness is at stake. Why? That sounds a little weird. Because in a consumer focused world, consumer leads to progress. There's lots of great things about capitalism. I love capitalism. I think it's one of the best systems. Socialism's becoming popular, or what's the term Bernie Sanders uses a lot? And I'm not dogging him. I like Bernie Sanders,
Um,
but it's that, like, democratic socialism or whatever.
yeah.
It's like a mixture of the two. Fine and dandy. But the problem with capitalism, one of the problems with progress, with people wanting the newest things, so then we keep innovating and pushing new things, which all leads to progress, which is great. But one of the negatives is that it gives people that feeling of not enough. It gives people that feeling of they don't have enough, they need more, they can't be, they lose contentment. And my personal belief, this goes into more my personal belief is that happiness equals contentment
Right.
at the end of the day. You want to be happy, learn to be content. That doesn't mean you can't have or want great things. It just means that whether or not you get those, you don't really give a fuck. You're still
Right.
happy at the end of the day.
Right.
What I think this algorithm pegs us for is, like I said, that becomes a lot harder. Contentment becomes a lot harder when every fucking item you're looking at is like you walking into a Walmart and every item on the shelf is something that inside you is just dying to have. Like, name me what's one of the best, what's one of your favorite products you've bought in the last year?
In the last year,
Yeah. Maybe it's that microphone in front of your mouth.
I
You love
microphone,
that
the
fine
camera.
microphone.
Yeah, I
Okay.
absolutely love it. Yeah,
Okay. But imagine that you're going out to upgrade your thing, your gear, to make this more specific to you, and you walk into Walmart and you're like, "Oh man, a great new microphone will make my streams, my videos so much better." But now you walk into Walmart and the 5,000 items all give you that same feeling.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying.
And
I
that's
mean,
what I'm
and
saying.
you're
I think we lose that. And that's where I say I think it's what at stake is it's not broke in a gutter, it's happiness, which at the end of the day, I think is, believe it or not, outside of maybe other people, is probably the single most, I mean, it's what our founding principles of the United States, was the one of them, the pursuit of happiness. I mean, I think it's that important of a quality for us that if we're unhappy, and I think a lot of the unhappiness in the world today is that lack of contentment, a lot of the depression, anxiety, all of that
right.
comes from that. I think that's what's at stake.
Makes sense. No, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, yeah, because I mean,
But doesn't that
you're
make it more like, isn't that, doesn't that now make it like, I mean, we think of these bad things like, oh, penniless in the gutter. Like, doesn't lack of happiness sound even worse?
yeah, I mean, it definitely does. I mean, because I mean, you're playing in the same realms. Your example is playing in the same realms of, teens these days, you know what I mean? Believing that, they're not good enough and they've got to look like these supermodels, you mean, that are, photoshopped and everything else. I mean, it's the same realm, right? They're getting presented, all of these, depictions of these, amazing, women, realistic women, you know what I mean? They're painting this picture that's the only way you can achieve things or get, whatever, or do whatever, you know what I mean? And then, it's manipulating the minds of these, these teens into believing that's what it is. It's around along the same lines, right? You continue to do that if you're constantly presented, like you're saying, with that feeling on everything that you could potentially get that you're presented with, then you inevitably you would be depressed. I mean,
Yeah,
you'd be depressed all the time.
I think you start to tie your worth to likes and again, not just likes, but engagement, comments, likes,
Right.
shares. You
Right.
start to, and to top it off, I don't, did you ever, I messaged you about a new social media site that came out, BitClout. Have
Yeah.
you heard of it? Have you seen it at all? Did you look at it
Yeah,
at
I
all?
didn't. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah,
Okay.
I did not look
So
at it or anything. But what you were telling me, yeah, it sounded very interesting with the
yeah,
crypto.
so what it is it is a social media site very much like Twitter, basically kind of a copy of Twitter, if I'm being honest, in
Okay.
my opinion, but it's based around cryptocurrency and a cryptocurrency blockchain, meaning it's decentralized, can't be people can't be canceled on it. For example, like you couldn't cancel culture somebody on it,
Okay.
um, and all of that. But you're worth, every single creator on there, every single user has their own creator coin, their own crypto coin for their username. And people can invest real money, real Bitcoin into this platform and then buy coins of creators that they think will grow in the future. It's almost like you can invest in individual people instead of a company. So you can buy their coins when they're new to the site. And then if they grow and the price of their coin goes up, you end up, it's an investment. You can end up cashing out that and you might have made a bunch of money off of their coin. It's very, kind of complicated to get your mind around if you're not used to
I mean, it
blockchain,
sounds.
crypto, and all
It
that.
sounds. I mean, it sounds like literally sounds really cool, though. I mean, I'm
It
interested in it.
sounds addicting as fuck, and it is. But that's my point. So now, not only are we going to have people's worth tied to likes, we're actually going to start putting a monetary value on people's worth on social media. That does sound cool as fuck, but I can also see how that can be very dangerous as fuck, because now it's not this 17-year-old girl or 16-year-old girl that isn't getting 100 likes like her best friend. She's only getting 30. Now it's this girl who her worth is only worth $25 per coin and her best friend's is worth $125 a coin. We're talking then real money value. We're actually giving people worth with a dollar sign, in essence. And I just think
Which
it's a
then I feel like,
really,
which then I feel like is only gonna add more to that depression.
that I agree. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a cool concept, but again, like, just to kind of now bring this full circle and kind of come back to your side, I'm going to bring myself back to your side. I'm not saying that we should get rid of social media. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying I can see that there are some real big problems with it. And I can see that side, the side of the people like that created the Dr. Randy's Social Dilemma and why they're concerned. I do think it's stuff we should be concerned about. I think the problem isn't the tool, as you said. I agree with you on that. I think the problem is what we're pegging the algorithm to look for, or what the algorithm's goal is. That's where we have the problem. And I'm not sure how we change that, because there's a lot of greedy motherfuckers in this world. And how do you get people to stop pegging an algorithm to make more money from advertisers?
Right.
I mean, do you create a social media platform that costs a monthly fee like Netflix, Facebook, $10 a month, no ads at all?
I mean,
no incentive to create an algorithm to keep you on the platform. You pay the Netflix, the only Netflix has an algorithm that suggests you shows it thinks you will like, but at the end of the day, the only thing that algorithm's trying to do is just make sure you keep paying your $20 a month or whatever Netflix costs nowadays.
right.
It's not trying to keep you on their platform per se 24/7. It's not trying. It might. I mean, I'm not saying, I think that, but it's not pegged to.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's not trying to.
I think it's a little different. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
well, it's not because the algorithm. Well, it's still trying to keep you on
to make you think that your money's worth it, so they're trying to keep you on their platform longer. But
right, but the algorithm, it is different because the algorithm is not trying to present you with the most ads as possible that will then potentially lead to a sale, so then they make more money. I mean, that's not the objective of that algorithm. The objective is
customer satisfaction.
Right. Exactly.
As a customer.
Right. Keeping you there as a customer because they want you to keep on paying that monthly subscription. Right. And again, I don't know if that's a good way to go for social media. I mean, personally, I feel like, again, I think
maybe it becomes a public utility, or at least there's an option of social media public utilities, like everybody, where our taxes pay for it. Like just how we have, I know people be like socialism.
I really think that social media, or at least social platforms that had this enabled, would die. If you guys don't already know this right now, the new iOS 14 that's coming out, right, that's going to be launching, is going to put a massive, and I mean a massive, dent into Facebook. And the reason why I say that is because the moment iOS 14 goes live and everybody in these people's phones, these iPhones, update to iOS 14, which everybody wants the new update, right? So you're going to update it naturally.
Sure.
If you update your phone and you load up Facebook for the first time, it's going to pop up on your screen, and they have to physically ask you to collect your data. I don't know a single person that's going to click yes. You see what I'm saying? And if that is the case, and everybody clicks no, then that right there shuts Facebook's app on the iOS device down from collecting any personal data. Then what happens there is it's just a snowball effect. Then what happens there is then now their ad delivery, their ad, service, their ad manager, but he runs Facebook ads, is then going to start dropping in value, right? Because if you're a person wanting to put an ad out and you want to target specifically iPhone users, or you want to target a specific type of audience, you're losing a giant chunk, of what that value would be, because that amount of audience is gone now. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't know if that will fix the problem, because I don't know if if every social media would have to, not opt people in right away and people would have to opt into it. I just think it would be dead. I just don't think there'd be enough people opting in.
Yeah. I don't know what they exactly, I know what you're talking about. I do know it. I will say, I think it hurts Facebook. I don't think it completely stops the ability for them to still target you, because, for example, the way Facebook works is Facebook has tracking pixels even on regular people's websites. So Facebook doesn't just know what you do on the Facebook app. They also know other websites you visit.
Correct.
Anybody that has this Facebook tracking pixel installed, which are most businesses nowadays.
Yep.
That's what Apple's stopping. So they won't be able to see what all you do outside of Facebook. But in terms of the Facebook stuff, they will still know every post you like, every time you make a comment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Apple can't stop that.
Your
They
engagement
know
on the
what
site, right?
groups you're part of. If you're part of gaming
Correct.
groups, they know you're
Correct.
probably a gamer.
Yeah, yeah,
So
because
they're
that's all
still
done
gonna have a
on
very detailed
right,
portfolio of you. So I
right.
don't think it hurts them as much as we would maybe. I don't even want to say hope, because it's not like we're out like, oh, we hope they fucking get screwed by this. But I don't know that it stops them from collecting as much data as we think. It might be that it stops them from collecting 20% of the data they're collecting, but I think they still got plenty enough to do most of the ad targeting that most advertisers would want to do.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
it
that
just
makes sense.
turns the efficiency down, uh you know I don't know, 20% or something.
Right, right. But I was thinking, I'm just saying in terms of like on a larger scale. I mean, yeah, it might I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, you're 100% right on that aspect. I mean, yeah, anything that's done on the platform, obviously they're going to be able to track no matter what, because no other company can control that. I mean,
Yep.
unless if there was something that they were forced to put in play that like by the government or whoever. You mean that they'd have to do
Yep.
something,
Yep.
but until that's actually managed or done, then yeah, they're going to be able to track anything that's in their app, or their platform. But what I'm just saying in terms of like revenue and money. I'm saying, like, yeah, 20%, but it's 20% on a large scale. I mean,
Oh
you're
yeah,
talking
for
about,
sure.
a massive scale, so I mean,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
still money being lost, and Facebook not being happy about it. They're going to try to figure out ways, around it. And that's where I was coming in earlier, where there's already companies right now working with Facebook, like, foreign companies, China and some of those other companies they've already mentioned, that are working with Facebook right now to try to undermine that. I mean, of what Apple's putting in play, like even if a user, clicks, the button and says, no, don't track me, or, don't share my user data or whatever with, Facebook. I mean, that there would still be ways that they can still pick out some of the information that they need based on like things that are available, to Facebook and stuff. And they're trying to work their way around that, you know,
Okay.
so, I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, I mean, I guess to wrap everything up, I mean, I'm in the same realms of you. I definitely think that I don't know. I came into the podcast feeling a little bit differently, I guess, but I
That's all
mean,
right. I mean, I did too, to be completely honest. I mean, again, I kind of took the role of devil's advocate, but then as I started talking about it more and more, I'm like, I can see how some of this is again, coming into
concern.
this podcast, my thoughts was kind of the same as you. Positives outweigh the negatives. When have we been in a time when people could literally create a YouTube channel about Beanie Babies if they fucking wanted to, and make a living doing something that they're passionate about? How many people could start a farm and do vlogs about their farm and make a
Right.
living so that they could fucking be a farmer if they wanted to? Like,
Right.
just the amount of stuff you see, like people traveling the world by making travel videos of them, travel vlogs of them traveling the world on YouTube. People
Right.
making money off game. I mean, to do pretty much anything you want to do today. Like, is it hard? Yes. Can most people do it? Probably not. It takes a lot of fucking work, a lot of fucking patience,
Right.
up in skills. But that opportunity is there, like has never been there in history. Like, to me, I'm like positive, positive, positive. But like I said, I mean, even so that's how I came into it. But even just kind of playing the devil's advocate tonight and starting to think through some of these things, even I'm now sitting here like, man, I can see how this shit can get dicey fast. But again, I think, kind of just to, again, kind of, I think moving into wrapping things up, I think it comes down to what do we peg the algorithms to? I
Right.
think we can agree the tools aren't necessarily what's bad. The ability to catch up with family halfway across the world, to keep posting, see updates of their lives where we've never had, where it used to cost you. I remember when I was a kid and you didn't even have free long distance on cell phones. You were paying 10-20 cents a minute to call somebody more than 30
Oh yeah.
miles away from your home.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the ability it's given us just to keep up with friends, family, friends that have moved out of state, after
Well,
college and
communication. I
stuff.
think communication in
Yeah, in
whole,
general. Yep,
communication in
yep.
whole has manifest.
Like, that's
I mean,
all
to the
positive.
extreme. Right. Right. And that's all
Yep, yep.
positive. I mean, whether it's new people you're meeting, old people that you've known before, past friends, family. I mean, literally everything on communication side. I mean, is tenfold. I mean, a good, over bad thing. I mean, when it comes to that
Yeah,
aspect.
and I think it, I think we might even see it happen organically. I mean, as you see ads coming in, you've seen people go to, you know I know lots more people nowadays that have a WhatsApp group with like 20 of their closest people that they chat in. I mean, I think you've mentioned before you have like a group
Yep.
of, friends and stuff that you guys just chat to in a, just to kind of get away from all the noise of everything else. It's just, I think we see people move into these smaller communities of people, like-minded people, to kind of get away from all that noise. So again, I mean, at the end of the day, maybe it happens organically, automatically, and advertisers got to figure out some other way of advertising, because I don't think we ever get rid of advertisers. But I think we can solve a lot of the negative issues around social media by just adjusting what the algorithm sees as the end goal.
Right.
If the end goal goes from keeping people on the site as long as possible so we can serve more ads and make more money, to keeping people connected with their friends and family and finding like-minded people in the world that they can have, community with. If that's what we're targeting the algorithm to help people do, people might still be addicted to the platforms, but for the good benefits. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Right.
not being for the just crazy shit that they'll serve you to try to keep you on just because they want you to be on 24/7. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I feel like that's the issue, is what we're targeting the algorithms for. At the end, at least at the end of this conversation, that's where I'm at with it now. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, there are issues. We need to fix what the algorithm is looking at.
Yep. Nope. I'm with you there. I would agree with
So
that. I agree 100%.
yeah. And I mean, we could have got into a lot more tonight, to be honest. I mean, again, I think as we're kind of heading up, like, I mean, we didn't really talk about all of the data leaks that Facebook has had with Cambridge Analytica and some of the other
Yep.
companies, and what and how they use that data, and whether or not we as individuals should be compensated for that
Yep.
data, things like that. I've heard of people like, talking about like UBI's universal basic income, where these companies basically, that's how they fund it, is by taxing our data so that we at least get a slice of the pie or something.
Right.
Some of these things, that we could get. I mean, you can get into a lot of that stuff with social media. Another thing I think would be interesting to talk about would, we kind of mentioned it, like I mentioned cancel culture. That's an interesting thing to me about social media, is about, how we're starting to see people getting canceled and kicked off the platforms. And I've heard someone, like you mentioned Joe Rogan earlier, you listened to his podcast, where he talked about how social media almost has become like the new town hall of the future. We don't go to a town hall anymore, a government town hall. We voice these opinions on social media, and to start canceling people, maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe it is, I don't know, but I think that's other interesting stuff around social media right now. We've really tonight, I think, really just focused a lot on the algorithm, and to me, what the negative effects of the algorithm are.
Right.
But I would be interested in discussing this stuff again. And I don't know, maybe we need to bring on, for maybe we do a part 2 of this series, and we bring on, maybe someone that works directly in social media, or some kind of social media marketer or something
Yeah,
like
we could
that. I
reach
don't know.
out.
I don't.
We could reach out and maybe do like a part 2 video or something in the future, and we can just see if we can get somebody that is, like you said, an expert in that realm, and to kind of shine some light on maybe some aspects that we haven't talked about or thought about.
Yeah. Cause I think, I mean, to me tonight, it was more, I think we both came into this thinking we knew what we were going to say about it. And then I think we both kind of like realized, like, damn, this is
Shifted.
way bigger than we thought it was. Like, this
Yeah.
might have
Oh yeah.
more
Yeah, I would
ramifications
agree
than
with
we
that too.
realized.
I definitely think
So
that's
you would
exactly,
be down for maybe
what
a
we would
part
do.
2 of it, I guess. Anybody listening to, let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, the video, if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, whatever. Maybe mark what it is that you would like to see.
Yeah.
Or if you would like to see a part 2. Sorry, I just got a warning on my screen that my internet was acting up. So
Yeah,
I'm
well,
just checking real quick.
you froze from me for a
Okay.
second. So
Okay, but I
I
think
thought
we're
we were getting
good though.
disconnected.
Yeah,
So
I was a little nervous too, but that's why I blanked out there. But anyway, so yeah, I think it would be interesting to do a part 2 kind of on social media, the effects of it. Maybe, like you said, get an expert's opinion. So for a round 2 of this. But I think, I guess in closing, any last final thoughts on any of that I said at the end? And I hope I didn't take us off rail too much. But
no,
I
I think
thought it would be fun to play the devil's advocate, because honestly, my thoughts around it are, well, I mean, we both do YouTube. We both
yep.
are in the same field, gaming.
Right.
You do mobile, I do more traditional gaming. So my thoughts are a lot of times are the same as yours. Like, oh, I'm using this as a tool to better my life, to better my future. Da, 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 da. But then, like I said, I'm like, damn, I spend a lot of fucking time on social. To be honest,
Right.
it might not be TikTok, it might not be Facebook, but I spend a lot of
Might
goddamn
not
time
be
on
the
YouTube.
main. Yeah, I was gonna say it might not be the 100% mainstream ones or the
Yup,
ones that you would consider that. But yeah,
yep,
no,
yep.
I mean, I think you think you
But
hit it
anyways,
home.
yeah, closing thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think you hit it home. I mean, I definitely agree. I think that we could potentially do a part 2 video. I mean, again, this is just we're making this up as we go. Maybe that would be beneficial because I would like to, speak to a professional, or somebody in the industry, that, like I said, could maybe shine some light on aspects on either side, positive and negatives that we didn't, discuss or think about. Because yeah, I mean, coming into the video, I totally thought, oh, it doesn't affect me, I'm not that, worried about it, whatever. And then it's like deep diving deeper. It's like, okay, wait a second. There is a little bit more going on, with the algorithm. There's a little bit more going on behind the scenes, that the end user doesn't see and might not necessarily be able to control, that we should probably adjust, So, I mean, again, I definitely agree. So I'd be happy to revisit this topic in the future for sure.
All right, cool. Yeah. I think it'd be a good one. I mean, I think it'll be something we'll be dealing with as humans over the next couple years more
Oh yeah.
increasingly. We've only seen social media play a bigger part in everybody's lives, and not only play a bigger part, but I mean, just in, not the current president Biden, but with the previous president, whether you hate him or love him, he was probably the first real president to really just use social media wide open. And we saw the ramifications of that, again, good or bad. I'm not here to debate
Right.
that right now, but I just, I think it becomes, this talk around social media becomes even more important over the next couple, year, 2 years, or even, next 5 years. So yeah, I definitely think we will be revisiting it. But with that said, guys, thank you guys so much for watching, for hanging out, for listening, however you consume this podcast. If you guys are watching on Spotify or Apple, share it with a friend. If you're watching on YouTube, also share it with a friend. Why I separated them, I don't know. But nonetheless, share this podcast with a friend. Maybe, if you think they could benefit from just, hearing a discussion about social media, you think maybe you got someone that's super addicted to it, and maybe, some of the negatives we talked about opened your eyes, and maybe you want to share that with a friend or family member. It helps us out. We really do appreciate it. Again, we're trying this new format. Last episode, we had a really great conversation about NFTs. If you're wondering what nifties are, as I like to call them, as I've heard a couple other people call them, but NFTs, it's a new thing in crypto space. If you're interested in learning about that, we did an excellent podcast where we interviewed someone who's been creating and selling NFTs like crazy, named The Hustle House. He's a really cool dude. I thought it went really well. But we're trying these new formats where we're discussing a particular topic, particular theme, trying to interview more people, things of that nature, which is why we said we'd like to bring on another guest for a part 2 of this. But again, check it out if you haven't. Share it with a friend. Help us with this kind of new format. Kind of get it out to the masses if you don't mind. It helps us out tremendously. And in closing, as always, I want to give Codations an opportunity to throw out his where you can find him on the interwebs, on the. Maybe we should just tell people to go open a book at this point. Maybe we shouldn't be telling them to follow us on social media. It kind of feels weird plugging social medias after we came to the conclusion that maybe some shit's fucked up. But nonetheless,
Nevertheless,
before
social media is our ultimate demise, go follow me on all the social media platforms. I'm on YouTube, as that's gonna be my main one. Obviously, that's my content creation channel. I'd cover various mobile games, and then not only that, I do have a Facebook, which you can hop over there, and a Twitter. I've got all the the general stuff. So you can pretty much find me over there, and it's gonna be Codations is gonna be the username on all of those platforms. But again, Derek, thank you very much for allowing me to co-host for today's episode. So without further ado, I will leave it up to you to close us out.
Yeah. And just a reminder, that is Kodeations, just in case anybody has trouble spelling Codations. Want to make sure they get it right.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you ever, real quick before I give my shit, did you ever get your website done?
Yep.
I know you were started to.
Codations.com.
Does it have links to all your socials and everything?
Yep.
Then that's the place people should go. Codations.com.
That's
all
right.
Links to all the socials will be there.
Yep.
And that's
Everything
the same
will be
for
there.
me. all, just go to my website. You can find my links to my YouTube, my Twitter, everything. OMGitsDerek.com. That's DEREK. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, love your faces, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Later.